If you are raised and schooled in the United States of America, and you have gone to school for 13 years, K through 12, and you aren't a racist, you weren't listening. Now, people really resent it when I say that, but wait a minute, folks. Who do we say invented everything, discovered everything, did all the writing, did all the reading? People. Eventually, maybe you'll actually say when the teacher says Christopher Columbus discovered America and he met those Indians here. There were no Indians here when Christopher Columbus got here. There were people from Africa who had been here for over 10,000 years before Christopher Columbus was born. It's time for us to teach our children the truth. And it's time for us to say, okay, we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter. People, everybody trace your DNA back as far as you can trace it. And you're going to find out that every one of you has in their DNA some DNA from a country in Africa. That's a
No,
fact.
I'm not.
You
No, I'm
are.
not, lad. I listen to Jason Derulo 3 times a week. The first girl I ever kissed, she was mixed race. And me ma has a black and white cat, so how can I be racist?
What?
You know, why even triggered?
Because I'm black?
So how come I saw you watching Friends instead of Fresh Prince the other day?
Because Friends is a good series.
You know what, besides the point, I'm just saying the only people who
Oh
don't
my.
say go to heaven are Nick.
It is always black men. I get so much shit on this app for only liking white boys and only talking to white boys, and last night I had an epiphany being back home. Every single suburban black girl that grows up in a really, really white space will probably tell you the same thing. Sometimes the black men are worse than the white people there. Because when you're in a white space and you're looking around for an ally or something, and the black men in that space are calling you the N-word and calling you a monkey to make their white friends laugh, it's exhausting. And here's the thing. I live in New York. I am back home in Nebraska, and it is only black men who have grown up in extremely white spaces who do this. Normal black men don't do this. And I am in no way saying the white people aren't the problem, but I expected it from them. I grew up only liking white boys because they treated me like a human being, which was an upgrade from the black men who were following me around calling me a monkey. And I'm 19 years old. And I still hear shit about how I'm too dark, or I don't dress well enough, or I don't do this, I don't do that, blah, 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 blah.
Whether fight a Russian or Samoan or take back shots from me.
Black people are the only race that think they can beat up anybody just because their race is black. Like, just because we were born black, I swear to God, black people really believe we can take anybody in a fight. I don't know why, but we born different.
What is up, my heathen brother? So I'll gladly go ahead and put my 2 cents in here. First of all, on behalf of the right-minded black people everywhere, I'd like to apologize for that guy's ignorance. We're not all that foolish. So, Mr. BDNOTB, you want to say only white people can be racist? You think black people can't be racist? Buddy, I think you need to take a good, long, hard look in the mirror. And while you're at it, go take a look in the dictionary as well. Racism is discrimination based on skin color or ethnicity. And while my brother Mockshot Viking hasn't done anything like that, you clearly have. Which brings up the age-old question. Why is it that we're still holding white people responsible for stuff that happened decades ago before any of us were even thought of? If we keep living in the past, we'll never make a better future. So, you can try and justify what you say all you want, dude, but at the end of the day, you're a racist. There's no getting around that. Mox out Viking, you know I got your 6, brother. Till Valhalla. Skål.
Are a racist. Hating, discriminating on, and being prejudiced towards somebody because of their skin colour or their race is racist. That's the definition. And don't put me in the category of all white people because I'm not fully white.
How many times do I have to go over this? Let's just skip over the fact that this person clearly doesn't understand racism as a system of oppression with a hierarchy. And we'll focus on the last thing they said. Don't put me in the category of all white people because I'm not fully white. Firstly, I have no idea who you are. I did not tag you in the video. You put yourself in the category of all white people, otherwise you wouldn't have felt the need to make that video and make that statement. Secondly, this is how I know people like that don't actually understand race, let alone racism. Because let's use the same logic for me. If you look at me, what do you think my race is? Just off bat. Most of y'all would have said black, right? Imagine, just try to fathom the idea of me responding back saying, actually, I'm not fully black. Don't put me in the category of all black people because I'm like 3% Scottish because of colonization. That would be ridiculous, right? Because when you look at me, your initial perception is what? Black. That's why the concept of race is so complex, because it's not supposed to make sense. It has never made sense. For the millionth time, back in 17th, 18th century Europe, these Europeans pulled this concept of race out of their asses and then came up with a bunch of arbitrary rules to go along with it. Quite literally, your race could change depending on who is looking at you, depending on which country you're in and how they view race. Depending on your shade, your hue, your race could literally change. So it's complicated for the people who are in that little in-between where they might be perceived as white one day and another race another day. You can deny your whiteness as much as you want, but at the end of the day, if someone looks at you and perceives you as white, you're going to be treated as such. And the more people who perceive you as white, the more privilege that comes along with it. It's not supposed to make sense. It's not fair. But the response of, I am not fully white, therefore I can't be racist, is probably one of the most ridiculous arguments I've ever heard in my life. It's been a while since I made one of these videos because I'm tired of re-explaining the same thing, but if you genuinely want to understand race and racism, click the link in my bio. I have a ton of resources, literally so many. And word of advice, if you have not read one singular book about race and racism, you probably shouldn't feel super confident jumping online and talking about it. Because reading a definition that has absolutely zero nuance is gonna screw you over, like it just did, just now, so.
Dear white people, I got a question to ask. But before I get to that question, I want y'all to know I fucking love y'all. And I appreciate everybody that's trying to make change and that have been following me on this profile that's continually pushing for peace. And I most definitely appreciate my brothers and sisters that participating with trying to make change. But my question is to the white people, how do y'all feel when someone calls you racist when you know you're not a racist? For me, I know when somebody racially stereotype me, it fucking pisses me off. So I would like to hear other people, you know what I'm saying, feelings and opinions on this subject.
Are you African American or are you Black American? Because there's a difference. First of all, I'm a Black African American, and there's two types of Black African Americans, right? There's the displaced ones, the descendants of the African slaves during the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade, and then there's the immigrants, the African immigrants who did not come over during the African slave trade. Why is this so hard to understand? Is your DNA predominantly that of a Black African person? Do you hold American citizenship? Newsflash, you are a Black African American. These diaspora wars are so stupid.
This off by saying I mean no disrespect. I'm autistic, I'm passionate, and I struggle with tone and inflection. CD, I love your content, but you're just wrong on this one. For starters, all African Americans are Black. Even if you're mixed and don't look Black, you have to be mixed with Black to be African American. And second of all, there are no two types of African Americans. African American is, has, and always will mean the descendants of chattel slavery in the US of A. Putting Black in front of African American to try and differentiate from two things that were never in the same category does nothing. If you are the child of a Black person who immigrated to the US, you would be first generation blank American. The entire point of the term Black American is because not all Black people in America are African American. I'm assuming you're not African American based on how this video is formatted, but it is hypocritical to say that diaspora wars are stupid while in the same breath speaking on behalf of and trying to change the definition of an ethnic group that you're not a part of. It's not even a diaspora wars thing. It applies to every immigrant, so I don't know why it would be different.
Bad that happens to you or other Black people is not automatically a result of systemic racism. Yes, there are elements of racism in our institutions that need to be remediated, but that doesn't mean that all of our misfortunes can or should be blamed on someone or something else. And yes, we can be racist too. You don't need institutional power to be a prejudiced piece of shit.
And let me stop you right there. First of all, racism is the systemically supported oppression of an entire group of people based on their race or perceived race. So can you be biased toward white people? Oh yeah. And can you be disrespectful toward white people? I mean, I do it all the time. And are there other problems that affect white people? Hell yeah. Problems like classism, genderism, homophobia, transphobia, fat phobia, ableism. They all totally exist. But there is no systemically supported oppression of white people, and therefore you can't be racist toward white people. And while there are certain names you might not like being called because they are condescending, it's not the same as the historical context of diminutive names being used to dehumanize black and brown bodies. And when you play the oppression Olympics, what happens is that you fail to acknowledge the fact that it all comes from the same root, which is patriarchal colonialism.